Hey everyone, it's Tracy Martirana here from Holistic Wellness with Tracy. And today I wanted to share with you a video that I made several years ago for a group of my clients going through my program called Everyday Evolution. The idea behind Everyday Evolution is that the big grandiose changes that we propose in our New Year's resolutions or on our birthdays don't tend to stick. The way habit change works is by making small changes over and over and over again until they add up to the big changes that we're looking for. In putting my program together and even while I've been counseling clients, I've read several books about habit change because that's what I'm usually asking people to do is change their habits. I took 3 books that I really enjoyed and I took just a few highlights from each of those books and shared them in this video. So watch, enjoy, and hopefully you learn a little something that will help you make habit change easier.
Hello, my name is Tracy Martirana. I am the owner of Holistic Wellness with Tracy, and I'm here today to talk to you about habit change and identity evolution. The reason being is these topics are important and can be very helpful when you try to change your own behaviors, when you try to become a healthier person, or when you try to really institute any sort of behavior change. So today I thought I'd talk to you about 3 books in particular. The first one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. The second is Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. And the third one I don't have with me. That is High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. Now, I could talk for hours about everything that's in these 3 books. However, I know that you're probably not interested in hearing hours of lecture on habit change and identity evolution. So today I am just going to give you a couple very high level key concepts from these books that I think will help you be successful in changing your own behaviors. So the first one that I want to talk about is it's something all of them have in common, but none of them really use this word to describe it. However, I'm going to. So in yoga, we have a word called samskara. See that? Samskara essentially means like the impression of our behaviors. So the idea being that your behaviors create your identity. So if you do something often enough, over and over and over again, you begin to identify with that behavior. So for example, let's say you are an herbal tea drinker. So every day you drink herbal tea. Now, you might say, why did I just draw a circle? The idea of samskara, it reminds me of like a record player with the needle in the grooves. So every day you drink herbal tea, every day the impression or groove that essentially becomes your identity is deepened and made more significant. So every day that you drink herbal tea, every day you become more and more associated with that identity. So you are an herbal tea drinker. Now, you're drinking your herbal tea every day. A friend calls you up and says, hey, let's go out for coffee. And you, bloop, coffee drinker. See, one day you went for coffee, changed the shape. That's not a big deal. It's a one-time thing or maybe an occasional time thing. Maybe you go once a month to meet a friend. That doesn't make you a coffee drinker, right? You're still an herbal tea drinker. So you're going around through life drinking your herbal tea, identifying as being an herbal tea drinker. Then maybe where you work, maybe they put in one of those nice Keurig machines with a little vending machine with a big assortment of flavored coffees that you never even knew existed. And next thing you know, like you and your coworkers will be like, oh, we should go for coffee this morning, grab a new coffee. And then maybe the next day you drink your herbal tea, but then they're like, oh, look, there's a new flavor. Have you tried this blueberry? out there. And then pretty soon, maybe every day, you and your coworkers have started this new habit of going to get a cup of coffee in the morning. And this begins to slowly disappear, and this becomes your new identity. You are now a coffee drinker. So it might be sort of a silly example, but that's how Samskara works. So our habits, things that we do over and over and over again, become who we are. We identify with them. We label ourselves because of them. So James Clear from Atomic Habits says, instead of letting our behaviors just decide who we are for us, let's do something different. Ooh. So James says, instead, there's 2 steps. Decide who you want to be. So what identity do you want? Like maybe you want to be, maybe I want to be a healthy person. Maybe I want to be the kind of person who exercises every day. Maybe I want to be the kind of person who drinks herbal tea. Maybe I want to be the kind of person who meditates. Maybe, the list goes on. Maybe I want to be someone who makes their bed every day. Okay. So decide who you want to be, and then prove it. Prove it to yourself over and over and over with small actions. So if we go back to the idea of I want to be someone who exercises every day. If I am currently someone who doesn't exercise at all, then I'm probably not going to want to jump into committing and saying I'm going to exercise 45 minutes every day, 7 days a week. Chances are it's not going to happen. I might do it a couple times and then it's going to hurt. My body's not used to it. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be grouchy and I'm going to say I'm not doing it anymore. And then I'm going to fail. Failure, that's bad. Failure does not support who you want to be. You need to be successful to prove it to yourself over and over and over again. So that's where the idea of small habits comes in. Kaizen is a word that they use like in lean manufacturing and many places, but it essentially means small continuous improvement. So you make one small change today and you stick with that, and then you add a little bit more, or you make another small change and you build and you build and you build on your changes. So small is key because small means you'll be successful. So if you decide I want to be a person who exercises every day, maybe we start with I do 5 jumping jacks every morning. You could wake up and decide, all right, today I'm not doing my 5 jumping jacks, but it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to do the 5 jumping jacks. So if you have just that little bit of drive to be successful, you can easily do this, right? 5 jumping jacks, maybe 2 sun salutations, maybe I'll walk around the block. Depending on the size of your block, it might be 5 minutes, might be a little bit more. But that's a commitment that you can probably stick with and be pretty successful. And maybe it's not every day. Maybe it's 5 jumping jacks in the morning, twice during the week, once on the weekend. So you're 3 days a week. Okay, you're becoming someone who exercises. And then eventually, maybe it'll up a little bit more to every day. 2 sun salutations doesn't take long. Do that every single day. Pretty soon, you become someone who exercises. Even though your exercise is only 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. You're still doing it every day. It's still supporting your identity. So the more you do it, the more you identify as somebody who exercises every day. Once you start to really, truly identify as someone who exercises every day, then it becomes easier to add to it. Because now I exercise every day. That's part of who I am. So therefore, someone who exercises every day probably doesn't stop at 2 sun salutations. They'll at least do 4. And so then you do 4 for a while until that becomes your routine. And then maybe you add in a standing sequence to your yoga practice every day. Or maybe your walk around the block just got bigger and now you do, like, instead of 1 block, you go 2 blocks. Maybe you do a figure 8 around those blocks until you're walking for 10 minutes every day. And then you build and you build on that identity that you already have. So if you don't prove it right out of the gate, you fail. So that's why we keep them small and actionable. Makes sense, right? So while James Clear talks here about how to do it, decide who, and prove it over and over and over again, BJ Fogg has a nice tool in his book that has to do with how to decide what changes to make, like what behaviors, how do you prove it? Like what do you want to incorporate to prove it to yourself? So let's take an example of maybe you've been having trouble sleeping. Maybe you can't get to sleep. Maybe you all wind up, it's bedtime, you crawl into bed and you just lay there. So you've decided you need to take action there because you want to be the kind of person who sleeps well, who sleeps like a baby. You want to be the kind of person who crawls into bed, falls asleep, wakes up refreshed. So what small behaviors could you do to make that happen? So BJ's Fogg's, his concept is more like a brainstorming activity. So with him, you take sticky notes and you start making a list of everything you can think of that might help in that situation, that might be a behavior maybe you want to consider. So on your sticky notes, you might write like use lavender oil, take a bath, do a yoga practice. Maybe you want to, I don't know, what else might you want to do? Maybe journal to get your thoughts out before you go to bed so that they're not ruminating through your head. Maybe right outside your bedroom window is a really bright street light that keeps you awake. So maybe this one is install like room darkening shades. This one was a lavender. So I've sort of ordered these in what I think would be easiest to implement, hardest to implement. So this might be the bath, this might be yoga. Well, you know what? Maybe this is journaling, this is yoga. Because journaling to me seems a little bit easier. Pull out a piece of paper, write some stuff down. Yoga means I need to think about it. I need to do something a little bit more. And I don't know what this one will be. Whatever, come up with something. So we have our sticky notes, our ideas, like what we could possibly do, and we've ranked them from easiest to hardest. And maybe like when I use my own gauge, like maybe right around here is where I really draw the line of these 4 are pretty easy, these 2 pretty hard. And then we start looking at them on the other axis, thinking low impact over here, high impact over here. So the lavender oil, it's very easy, but maybe lavender oil doesn't really calm me down. It doesn't really make me sleep. I don't know why people are so hyped up about it. Just kidding. I love lavender oil, but you know, maybe you don't. So for you, while it's easy, it comes over here because it's low impact, right? So I'm just gonna turn that a little bit so you can see my, there you go, better. So maybe a bath, maybe taking a bath, sitting in that warm water is so soothing to you. It, you know, it makes you sleepy, it relaxes your muscles. So that, you know, is high impact. You love taking a bath like that, you know, right off, that's a good idea. Maybe journaling, you're like, oh yeah, my mind goes nuts. So I worry about things. So maybe if I just mind dump them all, that'll probably be pretty high impact as well. Yoga, maybe you haven't tried it. Maybe you're unsure. So maybe this one is like a, I think maybe here, but maybe it's over here. We don't know. We'll see. That one we need to experiment with. We haven't decided yet. Maybe room darkening shades. We know, like that light outside our window drives us nuts. However, it's hard. So yeah, we know it's going to be high impact. It's going to be expensive. I have to go shopping. I have to get them. I have to install them. That takes like a plan. So that's not something I can just start thinking, I'm going to do that today. That I need to work on that. So this one is a little bit hard. So according to BJ Fogg, as we're looking to improve things, we want to make some changes and focus on these changes right here, the ones that are easy. So they're still up here in the easy section, but they're over here in high impact. So if you're just choosing like little behaviors, you don't want to choose one that's over here. You don't want to choose lavender oil. Like, why even bother? Like if you're only doing one thing, make it high impact, but make it easy so that you're successful and can prove it to yourself over and over and over again, right? So you're going to prove that you are someone who falls asleep and sleeps like a baby. So maybe this week we start with the bath. Maybe we say, okay, we're going to take a bath 2 nights during the week, 1 night on the weekend. And you start doing that. You're like, oh yeah, this is good. This works. I like it. So maybe after that, you're going to start increasing. Maybe you'll do a bath 3 nights during the week and 1 night on the weekend. So now you're doing it 4 nights a week. And you're like, wow, this is really cool. So you're becoming someone who takes a bath because it makes you someone who sleeps well. Maybe you start the journaling and you try that out. Like, all right, a couple nights a week, I'm going to journal and see how that works. Maybe it works well and you keep it. Maybe you don't. But that's, it's a good place to start. Chances are it's going to help. Yoga. This one was a question. We didn't really know. So you experiment. Maybe you do it a few nights and you're like, no matter how relaxing of a practice, it still gets me amped up and makes it hard to sleep. Then it's over here, it's no good. You let it go and you move on to a different behavior. You don't keep doing it just because you said you were going to do it, right? You listen to your body, you pay attention, you notice it moved over here. It's no longer in the sweet spot. You let it go. Now, the other thing to note is maybe down here, this room darkening shade one. This was a hard one, but it was going to be high impact. So we don't necessarily want to just completely ignore it. Like, maybe this is worth looking at. It's not something we're going to, not the first thing we're going to go to, but maybe we should consider maybe saving up for the shades. Maybe we could consider placing an order, getting them here, and then maybe next week when I have some time, then maybe I'll install them. Or maybe there's a way to move this up the scale to make it easier, so then it does become something. So maybe room darkening shades, yeah, that would be nice, but do you really need to darken the whole room? Maybe there's another option. Maybe you're already thinking, I could just get a sleep mask. Try a sleep mask. So it might not jump up here because maybe you still have to order a sleep mask through Amazon, whatever. But the price isn't too bad. It should be pretty cheap. So it's still up here above that easy, hard cutoff line. So maybe move it up and then it becomes something that's in the sweet spot and you can give it a try. So that's the tool by BJ Fogg to help decide what habits to focus on. Makes sense, right? The other thing that I'll share with you from BJ Fogg. So once you've decided the behavior that you want to work on. So let's say it's going to be the journaling. Okay. So we're going to journal. So, or we could even go to something different. Let's look at something completely different. Let's look at maybe you stress out. Like maybe when you're at work, people push your buttons and you need some stress management in your life, right? So maybe you are now hoping to be the kind of person who doesn't get stressed out when someone irritates them or any of those things. So you've decided, all right, I need a habit. My habit is going to be, I'm going to take a deep breath before I react to anybody. So when your coworker comes in, says something annoying, you're going to take a deep breath and you're going to let it go. Okay? So BJ Fogg proposes that in order to implement that new habit, you have to have a trigger. Now this one is easy because the habit we're talking about, the person is the trigger, right? Like the need to do it is the trigger. But if you are trying to start a new habit like flossing your teeth, your trigger might be, it could be location, but in the bathroom. There's like 5, like location, time of day, preceding habit, a person, and I think an emotion or a state of mind are what he considers the 5 normal triggers. So if you're trying to floss your teeth, it's probably going to be either time of day, you do it like in the morning, or directly after a preceding action. So that action is probably brushing your teeth. So when you brush your teeth, you will floss your teeth. So like that trigger will get you doing it. I actually do sort of a weird flossing trigger. That came to me was actually a suggestion from one of my dental hygienists, was that because I hate flossing, I'm in a hurry in the morning. It's not something I really want to do. You get the mirror all disgusting, whatever. So she had said, maybe you could consider flossing your teeth in the shower. She's like, who doesn't want to stand in the shower for an extra couple minutes? I was like, nice thought. So I moved my floss into the shower, and now I take a shower. When I'm done, before I get out, I floss my teeth. Gives me a good excuse. So my trigger is actually like really more location. While I'm in the shower, I floss my teeth. Sort of an aside, but you see how it works. And then his last is there needs to be some sort of reward. When you're first trying to get a new behavior to stick, you need a trigger to remind you to do it, then you do it, and then you need a reward. So for some things, they're pretty clear, like that deep breath when an annoying coworker says something. That soothing, calming sensation, that is the reward, right? It rewards itself. If you are trying to be someone who exercises every day and you go out and you walk around the block and you come back, it could just be like a little to yourself, like, yes, just pat on the back. Like, it doesn't have to be anything great. Just a little acknowledgement, self-acknowledgement that you did something for yourself can be all the reward you need. Something else that you can do actually is you can ask your friends or your spouse or anybody, like, hey, when you see me do this action, tell me how proud you are of me that I'm doing it. Let them support you. They'll be glad to do it. And then you get that reward of hearing somebody acknowledge. So it's not just your own self-acknowledging, someone else is noticing too. That is one of the powers of being in a group when you're doing habit change, is you can brag and people will be like, oh yeah, good for you. So it's important. Not really lastly, close to lastly, the one thing I wanted to talk about from high performance habits was Brendon Burchard lists out like 6 habits. He calls them the 6 high performance habits. And these are important because they, as I was going through them, well, let me back up. For one, they're important because they pertain to a lot of different types of habit change, as do all of these really. We're focusing a lot on personal wellness behaviors, but they really pertain to just about anything. However, when I was looking through this list of the 6 high performance habits, I realized that they line up really well with some of the things that we do in my Everyday Evolution group, which is all about taking 8 key behaviors and really drilling down and doing a little habit change on each of those as you decide who you want to be to bring yourself like into a state of health and wellness. So I'm going to talk about these just for a minute so that you can see what I'm talking about, right? So the first one is seek clarity. So that means like understanding why you want to make those changes. So one of the very first things we do in Everyday Evolution is talk about and journal about why we joined the group, why we want to make the changes, who we want to identify as, like what are we trying to do? Like, I want to be the kind of person who exercises every day, meditates every day. I want to be the kind of person who is healthy, the kind of person that people look to for advice on being healthy, right? That's one of the things I identify with. So seek clarity to know why you want to change. If you don't know why you want to change, chances are you're not going to follow through. Number 2 is generate energy. We've all probably, I shouldn't speak for you, but at least I have experienced something that I get pretty interested in. I want to do something, but I don't like jump right in. I don't tell people I'm doing it. I don't get like this level of energy and excitement going around it. And then it will sort of peter out. And then I was like, all right, never mind. I guess I won't bother. So once you decide, like, I want to be the kind of person who exercises every day, it's important then to like let people know. Talk to your loved ones and let them know that you're really excited about this. Like, you are going to make these changes and it's going to be awesome. Maybe join a group, Everyday Evolution, right? It's a group that works together to make these changes so that you have not only the support system, but you're building the momentum and the excitement. The next is raise necessity. So knowing why you're doing it, right, in the very beginning, seeking clarity, is very closely related to this. We tend to support others in some way, right? We might be a parent, or we might be a sibling, or a child, or a grandchild, or an employee, or a pet parent, any of those things. So someone somewhere depends on us for something. So if that is important to you, that is some necessity. It's important for me to be well because I want to support my family. I want to support my friends. I want to support myself. I want to have the kind of life that's fun and energetic. I want to be that 90-year-old woman who's still living at home, cooking her meals, going shopping. Like, I want to, like, that is the necessity behind it. If I don't change my lifestyle, if I were eating Pop-Tarts, and drinking wine every night for dinner, am I going to be that 90-year-old? Probably not. If I'm not exercising, if I'm not moving, if I'm not doing something, I understand that, like, long term, what I do matters. So that is raising the necessity, understanding why I need to change, right? 4 is increase productivity. Now, in the book, he essentially says, pick out like the things that you know you need to be able to do for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, and get really good at them. So in Everyday Evolution, we focus on 8 key behaviors around health and wellness. So everything from sleeping to eating to exercising to meditating, all of those things, those are our focus, because if we do those well, we've reached our goal, right? So increasing productivity, don't worry about the thing that you do once a year. Worry about the things that you do every day. That's where the productivity comes in. That's when you'll see the most bang for your buck, if you will. The things that you do every day matter more than what you do once in a while. You'll see, I'll quote that a lot because that is true. And that is where the whole name Everyday Evolution comes from, is that concept that it's your everyday choices that make you productive or unproductive. Let's see, number 5 is develop influence. So when people come to you for help in something that you're trying to do yourself, it really ingrains it. It's like the whole, what is it? They say that the best way to learn is to teach. So in Everyday Evolution, we are a group. We will help each other. That's important. So when you have experienced something and you can share it with somebody else, it helps ingrain that behavior in you. So for me, recently, I've never liked exercise. I really haven't. I've always liked yoga, but I wasn't, I would go through spurts where I would do yoga a lot, but not every day. And then I would go through spurts where I didn't. And I never really liked exercise. I will admit that. So being someone who exercises every day is a change in my identity evolution. And I did this. I started slow. I walked around the block every morning, just 5 minutes, and then I added. And then when the weather was crappy, I'm like, all right, I'll just do 2 sun salutations inside. something, but I just made that commitment. I have to move for just a few minutes every day until it became something that I identify with. I exercise every day. And if I don't now, it doesn't feel right. Like if I try to skip a day or I'm off like visiting somewhere and I don't, I notice it. However, it becomes now, that is my odd behavior. Now, my daily behavior, my samskara is exercise, 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 exercise. Occasionally not exercise, but exercise, exercise, exercise. So now when I share that with people and I tell that story and I help them, I develop influence, and that drives that identity even further home for me, as I am someone who exercises and I'm someone who helps others understand the importance of exercise. Right? Mm-hmm. And the last is demonstrate courage. Whenever we're doing something new, it can be scary. Nobody likes change. Nobody likes the unknown. And in something like this, in everyday evolution, it can be scary because sometimes in order to really get the most bang for our bucks, we need to share a little bit, talk about things that we don't really like to talk about, like bathroom habits or relationship issues or anything else that eating disorders, things that have affected you in the past or things that you're battling with now. You share it with the group and you realize you're not really alone, and people can come together. So having the courage to make the change, make the commitment to share, all important aspects of successful behavior change. Yeah. Okay. Everybody got that? I can leave it on for a second, take a screenshot. All right. The last thing I want to talk about is sort of a warning, if you will. It's beware. It sounds kind of wrong to say it's a warning, but it's really, really easy to discount the impact of small changes. So I know that's what we've been talking about. We make small changes because they're easy, so therefore we repetitively prove who we are through our small changes. However, it's very easy to convince ourselves that a small change that's good doesn't really matter because you don't see the impact right away. It's also very easy to fall into the trap of, I know I want to lose 5 pounds, but I'm just going to eat this bowl of ice cream. Because you eat the bowl of ice cream, you didn't just gain 5 pounds, right? Like nothing changed. Yeah. So it's very easy to discount, but you do it over and over and over again, and it adds up. So your bad decisions add up just as much as your good decisions. So it's important to keep that positive stuff going and let the negative stuff go, and try not to let yourself be okay with making the negative choices or not making the good choices, and really hold yourself accountable to making those small changes. It's just a little small action. Just do it, right? So the thing I wanted to draw for you is, this is from James Clear from the Atomic Habit book. And I love his title of it because it is called The Valley of Disappointment. Just, I don't know, sounds like a title of a book. So I'm just going to draw a little graph here. So on this graph, we have time going this way, and we have results coming this way. Okay, can you see that? What we think will happen when we make some positive changes in our lives is we think we'll have this linear improvement. So as time passes, we're just going to get a little better, a little better, a little better. All is well. Yay. We eat healthy, we lose weight, maybe we're meditating every day and our mind gets calmer a little bit every day. But when we make small changes, it doesn't really follow the same linear shape. It actually starts out at the same spot, right? We start out wherever we started, but it's kind of does that. So while this linear line here is what we expect to happen, this line, I could have changed colors maybe. This line is what actually happens. And it's this area right here that James Clear calls the Valley of Disappointment. In this area, when we're in this early time, right through here, we're not really noticing the changes. Like, we're doing them, but where's the benefit, right? So we're exercising every day, but maybe we've lost a couple pounds, but we're not all of a sudden like svelte. Like, we still have some fat on our bellies and our muscles are still kind of mushy, and our energy level maybe hasn't changed all that much yet because it's only been a couple weeks, but we've been walking every day for a couple weeks. We want to see results, but we don't. So in his book, he does sort of like a huge reminder, flashing neon sign saying, don't let that stop you. Don't focus on the goal. Focus on your behaviors, which he refers to as the system, like your system for behaving. If you focus on your goals, you'll notice right off that you're not there yet. Like, if your goal is, actually, here's a really good example, and it doesn't have to do with wellness. Your goal is a clean house. Right now, your house is very messy. Okay, so you take a whole weekend. You take the weekend, you clean, you sort, you move, you put stuff away. You know, you're dusting, you're getting everything all situated. You're putting all the laundry away. You're making your bed. All's good. So you're at the end. You met your goal, right? Your house is clean. The problem is you focused on the goal and not the system. The system is your lifestyle. The system is why was it messy to begin with. So if you focused instead on let me say this again. If you focus on the goal, you reach the goal, but in a couple weeks, your house is going to be messy. It wasn't a long-term thing. It was a quick thing. You did it and then it dropped. So it's like when people do their New Year's resolution and they go crazy working out for like 3 days and then nothing. They stop. They go back to their normal habits because they didn't change their true identity, right? So by focusing on the system, looking at the messy house, maybe, or the messy room, whatever you want to focus in on. If instead of just, I want a clean house, and you spend a week cleaning the house, focus on the habits that made it messy to begin with, or the behaviors that made it messy. So maybe this week, your habit change is, I'm going to make my bed every morning when I get up. Very first thing I do. I get up, I make my bed. You get that habit done. You become the kind of person who makes their bed every day. Okay, one down. Maybe in a couple weeks you decide, all right, every night before I go to bed, I'm going to do like a quick, just 5 minutes, pick up whatever I can get. I'll set a timer, 5 minutes, whatever I can pick up. You do that every night. You become the kind of person who picks up before they go to bed. Maybe laundry day. You have this habit of doing the laundry and then maybe just leaving it on the couch. Maybe you fold it and some of it's over here on a pile, some of it's on the chair. You start a habit. On laundry day, I do all the laundry start to finish. I wash it, I dry it, I fold it, I put it away. Now your laundry is all put away. There's not stacks sitting all around. You changed the behaviors that led to the need for that goal. Make sense? So when you think of habit change this way, when you think about it as small steps, easy small steps that you can do over and over and over again, you'll be successful. So we decide who we want to be. We prove it by coming up with ideas, ranking them, picking the behaviors that will lead us in that direction, small behaviors that will lead us in that direction. And we make small changes until that samskara, until the patterning makes us identify as that. And then once we reach that identification, then we grow. We grow more from there. So now we went from someone who didn't exercise at all to someone who exercises every day, to someone who exercises like never misses a day, or someone who's exercises so much they can now run a 5K. We grow. So we grow, we change, we become the better version of ourselves so that we can be better for ourselves and for the people that we love and that we take care of. I hope that helps you as you navigate habit change. I hope that you are willing to jump in, make small changes, and just over and over and over again, and see who you become, because you really can make huge changes one little baby step at a time. If by any chance you need a little more, inspiration, I highly recommend the Atomic Habits book. Out of the three, that's the one. You don't even have to read the whole thing. Get a version from the library. Read just the first two chapters. Just the first two chapters are all you need to really sort of amp up your behavior game. And it'll be a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, but it's always good to hear it again, to read it, to hear it through someone else's lens. I don't know. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and hopefully you're ready to make some changes. Take care. I will talk to you again soon.